All right, folks, welcome to the One Thing webinar for December. So happy that you chose to spend your Friday afternoon before the holidays with us, hopefully getting some great information on how you can have a healthier end of your year and a healthier 2016. I'm Jay Papasan, co-author of The One Thing, and I'm going to do a little housekeeping, and then we're going to dive right in. So our guest today is Davidson. She's the founder of Camp Gladiator. It's an amazing company you'll learn a lot more about today. She's a great gal, and she's got a great story. You can see our handles on Twitter there. If you're one of those that likes to multitask and share stuff, go ahead and put that hashtag, the one thing, and tell us what you think while we're going. And you can always, if you have any questions, visit us at our website. So today we're going to talk about getting in the best shape of your life in 2016. And Allie's got 5 great principles that you can use for how you can make your choices around that. And they should serve everybody, whether you're a novice or an expert, on making your best decision possible. So I'm just going to tell you how this all works. I'll spend about 5 or 10 minutes. What we've learned in surveys is that about 30% of the people who join us on these webinars are here because of the guest or something else. Wemaybe a friend told them to join in, but they haven't actually read the book. So I'm going to do the real quick elevator story. This is the big idea behind the book. This is what we're trying to, to do with it. And, you'll hear language around the dominoes that I'm likely to use and give you the big picture. Then we'll bring Allie on. We'll talk about health. We'll talk about some real specifics that you can put to use in your life. And then at the very end, we'll have a Q&A. So throughout the webinar, use that questions toolbar and say, hey, I've got a question for Allie. I've got a question for Jay. Whatever it is, put it in there. We'll bring it up at the end of the last 15 minutes or so of the hour, and we'll get a chance to answer all your questions. So I'm really looking forward to this. Really quickly, I've known Allie for a couple of years now, been aware of Camp Gladiator. Probably the best trainer I've ever personally gotten to work with was one of her top people, a guy named Dallas Seeley. When my wife and I made the big decision to really invest in our health, the only time we could do that was at 5 a.m. in the morning. And we got a recommendation to get Dallas as our trainer. And every time he was supposed to be there 3 times a week, 5 a.m., he was standing in front of our house with kettlebells and mats and ready to make us beg for mercy. And honestly, I'll tell you, about a year and a half into that, I went from being very overweight. At one point, I was 245 pounds. He dropped me below 200 and in probably the best shape of my entire life, not just my adult life. So it was a great experience. And so he introduced me to Camp Gladiator. He was telling me about the culture of this company and the people who founded it. So I've known her from a distance for a long time before I actually got the chance to meet her. I'm not going to tell you her whole story. She's got an amazing story, why it's called Camp Gladiator, about how she ran away on her wedding day and all of these great things started. But I can tell you about the company today. It started with one trainer back in 2008, and now it's got over 300 all-star trainers all over the place, serving more than 30,000 campers in 1,000 locations. This is like the fastest growing fitness company in the United States, to my knowledge, and I believe it's just stat like an Inc. magazine now. It's absolutely a great company. It's got a great mission and a great culture. If you've got it near you, I encourage you to check it out. In addition to her work at Camp Gladiator, Allie and her husband Jeff, who's also an all-star, are the founders of a nonprofit Christian sports camp called CG Victory. She's a coach and a group motivator, and I think you're going to feel that today. So I'm super, super excited to chat with her. So before we dive in, let me just really quickly give you the 411 on what the One Thing's all about and how that connects to why we have Allie on this program today. So if you had to boil it down, hopefully you're familiar with the 80-20 principle. This is really the core idea in our book. What it says is that a minority of your efforts, and in this example, 20%, is going to give you the majority of your results, in this case, 80. This came from an Italian economist named Vilfredo Pareto back in the 1800s. He looked up, he was studying, wealth, and he saw that 80% of the wealth in Italy was held by 20% of the people. And that got written up, passed on. A guy named Joseph Duran kind of ran across it in the 20s. He popularized it, and now it's a centerpiece in a lot of business books. And I'll tell you, it's kind of the beating heart of this idea. It's the idea that I believe Gary would credit for a lot of his success, because once he learned this, he calls it a law, a success law, as real as the laws of gravity. You just can't deny it. If you focus on the few things that matter most, you'll always get the biggest results. So if you take that idea of the 20% that gives you the 80%, all we're asking you to do, and the one thing, is keep narrowing it down. What's the 20% of the 20%? And what's the 20% of that? If you had 25 things to do, the 20%, right? You take that and you keep doing it till you get to the one thing. What's the first thing you should be doing that will launch your results? So that's the big idea. That's what we're trying to get you to. And we're also acknowledging that it's not just one thing. The running metaphor throughout the book is this idea of a domino run. And it's this idea, hopefully you, one time in your life, you've lined up dominoes, right? You lined them up just so that you could knock over one and a whole bunch of them fall down. That's the idea, right? If you line them up correctly, one thing can actually get a lot of stuff done. And so, just a little trivia here for you. The world record is just under 4.5 million dominoes. Can you imagine that? A group in the Netherlands lined up almost 4.5 million dominoes, and by knocking over one, they got them all to fall down. That's about aligning your dominoes. And while we were researching this, we kind of discovered something pretty cool. Not only can one domino knock over many, it can actually knock over more in the sense of size. A guy wrote an article in the American Journal of Physics back in the 80s. This guy's name was Loren Whitehead, and he discovered that a 2-inch domino can knock over a 3-inch domino, and a 3-inch domino can knock over a 4.5-inch domino. Basically, a domino can knock over another domino that's 50% larger. And he built them out of wood. And by the 10th domino, it was as big as a door. It's like 6.5 feet tall. And he described it in the magazine. What began with a gentle tick ended with a large slam. And we're like, wow, okay, so you can not only do many things, you can actually do more. We wanted to know how far that would take you. So if you look at this graph on your screen, it looks a little bit like a hockey stick on its side. And that's what excuse me, scientists would call it, the hockey stick graph. You take that domino on the far left-hand side, it's just 2 inches tall, and if you grew it, like Loren Whitehead suggested, at 50% each domino, by the 18th domino, that 2-inch domino would have so much momentum and power, it could knock over a domino as tall as the Leaning Tower of Pisa. By the 23rd, it would knock over a domino taller than the Eiffel Tower. Now realize for a second, and this shocked me when I realized this, the Eiffel Tower is really tall. You see the little, the earrings, you see the little statuettes when you go to the Eiffel Tower, and you don't really get the sense of scale. But it's taller than any building in Boston, it's taller than any building in Seattle, it's taller than any building in Austin, Texas. It's a huge, huge edifice. That's just 23 dominoes into it. 31 dominoes into it, it would knock over a domino 3,000 feet taller than the tallest place on Earth, Everest. And 57, it would knock over a domino that would reach almost all the way from the Earth to the moon. That's what's called a geometric progression. When something grows at a regular rate, what begins too small to notice can get so big you can barely get your mind around it. Now, what we would suggest after 5 years of research on the book and interviewing tons and tons of really successful people, that hockey stick graph is the shape of success, big success. Really big companies, really big successes start small, and because they're doing their one thing so well, and they do it over time, they experience outlandishly amazing results. That's the shape of success, and that's the point of the one thing. We want you to line up your dominoes, figure out what your one thing is for your success, and keep plugging away at it. And over time, you're going to be shocked at how powerful you become. Now, a quick aside. In the book, we have this thing called the focusing question, right? What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything will be easier and necessary? That's how we hope that you'll identify, right, what your one thing is. And we want folks, to identify, the area of their life they want you to do it. I'll just say that this topic today, health, I almost always tell people if you can start there because the feedback loop is amazing. So once you know your one thing, we believe you should make it a habit. Why don't you work for that idea, whether it's working out, going to the gym, whatever, until it's a habit. And a lot of the books that we studied said it was 21 days to form a habit, but we couldn't find any science to back it up. Well, I will tell you, we found a group in Australia that really kind of dug in on this. They got a bunch of graduate students to take on a health habit, and then they followed them around for a year. And it could have been anything from drinking 8 glasses of water a day to running every day to working out, doing yoga, or even something like quitting smoking. And they just asked 2 questions. Did you do it, yes or no? And how hard was it? And if you're looking at the graphic on your screen, you can see where the star is. On average, 66 days into their journey, that's when it got about as easy as it was going to get. So if you've ever started a habit that got you waking up earlier in the morning, on average, about 66 days into it would be that day when you first started waking up before the alarm clock went off. Hopefully you've experienced that and you're like, wow, okay, I've kind of trained myself to do this. Well, that's the idea. When you know your one thing, why not just dive in, focus on it until it's actually habitual, like brushing your teeth. Now the thing that makes you your most successful is actually the thing that takes the least effort for you to do. You just got to stick with it. So that's the really big idea. So I hinted at this earlier. We believe that you kind of focus this at the big things in your life. You can go crazy trying to pick away, like, what's the one movie I should watch tonight? What's the one book I should read? No, the big areas, your spiritual life, your physical health, your personal life, these are the foundational questions. And that's where you should aim this big, powerful question. And today we're going to focus on the second circle. What's the one thing I can do for my physical health such that by doing it, everything will be easier and necessary? And we've got a great host to walk us through this, Davidson. So, if you're there, go ahead and unmute yourself. And I would like to introduce you to our audience. So, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, Jay.
Welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you were here. And you were telling me beforehand you just came out of a big conference. I can hear it a little bit in your voice. So thank you, after all that work, for coming out and sharing more of yourself with our One Thing crowd.
Absolutely. Yeah, hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I've been on the boot camp field leading workouts and giving some speeches to our company. We've had our annual conference that we just wrapped up a couple days ago, and that was a lot of fun. So I'm excited to be on the program, and thanks for having me, Jay.
Oh man, I'm so excited. So really quickly, I love your story. It was funny. Our researcher Garrett, like, he went back and watched the actual episode and everything. So why don't you go to the beginning, okay? You're about to get married to Jeff. Tell us what happened. How did Camp Gladiator get born?
Yeah, well, I've always been an athlete my whole life. I played all kinds of sports growing up in high school and went on and played basketball in college. And uh, me and Jeff, we dated that whole time. And so after I finished college, we were engaged to be married. This was in 2008. And the night before my wedding, my sister, who was my maid of honor, ran up to me and she said, "Hey, do you want to do one last crazy thing before you get married?" And I was like, yeah, duh. This sounds awesome. What do you have in mind? And she said, well, American Gladiators is having tryouts just down the road from your church, so we could stay out of the house and go to this tryout before you got married. And so that's exactly what we did. We snuck out of the house. My parents didn't know where I was. My husband didn't know where I was. No one knew where we were. We went missing for a couple of hours, and so we showed up to the tryouts. It was at a local gym here in Austin, and by the time I got to the tryouts, there were already 2,000 people in line. And so, of course, my sister's like, oh no, what have I done? Allie's going to wait in this line, and she's going to miss the whole wedding, and Jeff's going to hate me. And so we decided, hey, we need to throw on my veil and my garter, and we need to run up to the front of the line and beg the producers to let me cut and tell them, that I really and truly was a runaway bride. And so luckily they let me cut the line, and I got to do the tryouts and did really well in the tryouts, and they loved the story. And so I make it back to the church just in time to kind of give myself a little towel bath. Got to pat down, throw my hair up, put on some quick makeup, and walk down the aisle and marry the man of my dreams, my husband, Jeff. And that's kind of really how, obviously, I ended up getting on the show.
Now, did they make you do the whole Q-tip, like, joust, like in the tryouts? Like, I can see you thinking, like, what if I get a black eye before I get married?
Well, the tryouts were more like sprints on a basketball court and burpees and pull-ups and kind of just like a physical fit assessment test.
Okay, so you had that part down.
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, I had a lot of background in doing basketball sprints, so yeah, made it through the auditions. And during the process, they invited me out to LA for the next round of auditions, and I talked the producers into how amazing and athletic my husband Jeff is, which he is, but if you know him, you know he's, more of the kind of guy that he doesn't want to miss work, or, I'm kind of more of the crazy one. He's kind of more of the, he had a normal job at a financial planning firm. And so they said, well, okay, well, let's see Jeff. So we sent in a videotape of him. And so long story short, we ended up both being on the show as a newly married couple. Jeff did awesome, but he got knocked out in the semifinals, and I was fortunate enough to go on and win the whole season. And so, it was 2008 Gladiator Grand Champion.
That is so awesome. All right, so I got to say, because Garrett literally found the whole episode online and watched it before we did this broadcast, okay? And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's available out there. I didn't even think to do that. So you were way, way down in the finals, right? Like on the first two competitions, you were way behind, and then boom, you got basketball. Can you just share a little bit of the drama? Because this was a dramatic comeback victory you had.
Yeah, so each episode you compete in these different events, which give you points, and those points determine whether or not you have a head start on the final obstacle course at the end. And so my competitor actually was ahead of me, and that's where, we did the events like the joust against the gladiators, and one of the events, you run up the pyramid and you get tackled down, and rock climbing was one of the events. So she was ahead of me heading into the final obstacle course, I think by about 4 seconds. She had a 4-second head start, so I had to overcome that head start, and I luckily passed her on the cargo net, and from then on, I kept the lead and crossed the finish line first. And so luckily, the first person to cross the finish line is the winner. So I took home $100,000 and a brand new car, and that's kind of where we just felt so incredibly blessed. Like, wow, I can't believe this literally just happened.
Talk about a wedding present.
Getting
You
chosen
earned
to
it.
be on this show, yeah. It felt like a dream.
And then, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, you used the winnings to launch your business, Camp Gladiator. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. So imagine going back home. I mean, it took 6 weeks to film this show in LA, and we're fighting gladiators all day, and it's just this amazing experience. It's just, I mean, you're like, this cannot be real. Well, I win the show, and the very next day they fly me home, and I can't tell anyone because you sign all this confidentiality stuff, and so you can't tell anyone until the finale airs, like 3 or 4 months later, what happened. And so I'm sitting in my cubicle. I'm back at work at 8 a.m. the next morning, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So we start really thinking about it and praying about it, and we're like, man.
Hold on, real quick. Hold on. What were you doing? You were in a cubicle? You were working in a cubicle at that time? I just imagined you were already a trainer or doing like a coach or something, but you were like, you had a cubicle job.
At this time I did. I had just finished playing college basketball, and I was like, you know what, I want to go get some real world experience.
Okay.
And so I took a job in sales and marketing for a direct mail company. And so I sold ads to small businesses.
Okay, so you're in a cubicle
came in big time handy.
Got it.
Opening CG, yeah. And so I went back to that job, and I was like, oh, I got to do something with this opportunity. This is a once in a lifetime thing. And so we decided, you know what, we got to go for it. And so I ended up quitting my job a couple weeks before the finale aired, and we said, we're going to start Camp Gladiator, and it's going to be an outdoor fitness program. I mean, really, we were so young at that point. I was 24, and so we really didn't know what we were doing quite yet. But we knew that we'd have about, 5 seconds of kind of semi-fame to use as, an opportunity to publicize our camps opening up. And we had just won the money, so we used that to build a website and, do some small things for the business. And we launched the camp about a month after the finale aired.
Wow. All right. You were saying you were so young. Like, you're like, what, 31 now, if my math adds up?
Yeah, well, 32.
All right, and you built this incredibly huge company. So congratulations. I mean, I love that story. I love how you had the courage to seize the moment, to see the opportunity and actually step way out of what I think most people would consider a normal person's comfort zone and create something that I I could say from the outside in, because I've been a product of it, you've helped a lot of people. That's got to feel really good for you.
Well, thank you so much. It's honestly, it's been such a blessing. We had a great opportunity to launch it, and we just love it so much. And when you have so much passion for something, you're going to work really, really hard to make your dreams come true with it. And we have found some incredible trainers along the way, and our campers are just the most amazing people. Hopefully, some of them are listening today, but they really make CG what it is. It's such a special group of people, and our mission is that we want to positively impact the physical fitness and ultimately the lives of as many people as possible. And that's something like we talk about our mission every day. That's why we're doing what we're doing, and so that's the thing that keeps us fired up.
Love it. I love the mission. All right, my challenge to you is by the next time we meet, let's put a number to that. How about we impact 100 million people? You have to talk to Jeff about this. Put a crazy number up there and then start counting, right? I remember when McDonald's had how many served, right? Go ahead and put that out there and just start putting that number out there, because I bet y'all are going to, whatever huge number you put out there, I bet you'll blow through it so much faster than you think. I got to say, you asked if there were any campers out there. Bart Denon said, let's go, and I'm assuming he's one of your campers. He got all the questions so far.
Probably.
Well, that's a great point. We're going to segue. We're going to start fulfilling part of that mission right now. We've had over 1,000 people register for this. I think 1,500, and who knows how many will see it before we're done. So we can start adding those numbers to yours. Let's dive into the content. But before we flip over to that and talk about what some people can do to really positively launch their fitness and get in the best shape of their life for next year, everybody remember, if you joined after I already gave the instructions, use the questions toolbar on your GoToWebinar toolbar, and anytime throughout this, if you've got a question, I wish you'd asked this of Ali, or I'd really like to understand this, type it into the questions toolbar, and after Ali and I get done talking in about 15 minutes or so, we'll flip it back to you, and I'll start reading those questions, and hopefully we'll get all of them answered for you. All right, so Ali, you and I got the chance to chat, and we talked about how we could organize this. And we came up with kind of 5 priorities, because in my world, it's always got to be about the priorities. And when I asked you what's the one thing someone can do for their health, you were all about, what is this? Enjoyment. Pick something you enjoy. Can you tell us why you went to that?
Absolutely. And yeah, the concepts we're going to go over are very, very simple, but I think it's just applying them and finding what works for you. But in terms of enjoyment, you have to find something that you enjoy doing. I mean, if you're going to dread going to your workout, then you're going to find every excuse in the world not to do it. And so I think that's one of the biggest things is you have to find something that you truly enjoy doing and that you look forward to, so that you are motivated throughout the day, are like, yes, I get to go do my workout. And what we say at Camp Gladiator is that we tell our trainers to lead 60 minutes of amazing. It's not just a workout. It's about so much more than that. And the workout should be, for us, what we tell our trainers, it should be the best part of our campers' day. And so currently, if people listening today, if they don't have that, you got to go find that, right? There's so many great programs out there that are a great workout, but that are more than that revolve around community and culture and positivity. And that's exactly what we do at CG. And so that's my biggest encouragement, is find something that you look forward to going to.
I love that. And there's a lot of evidence. When we were looking at habit formation, I think about my kids. If it's a habit that we all acknowledge you have to do, and I'm going to say pick on my kids because they're young, brushing your teeth. When you're a kid, you don't enjoy brushing your teeth and you don't see the point. And it actually takes a lot longer than you think, unless you have kids and you know this with me. It takes a lot longer to make that stick. It's something they battle a little bit, they fight it. If you're treating what you want to do kind of like having to hold your nose and take medicine, maybe you need to pick something else out, because there's a lot of evidence that says when you pick something that you can get some enjoyment from, you're a lot more likely to do it each day and to continue doing it over the long haul. So I love that you went there, because that lines up with all of the research that we did into habit formation, because if you enjoy it, you're just so much more likely to do it, even on those rainy days when you maybe don't want to do it.
Absolutely. And Jay, I think that working out for a lot of people has a negative connotation to it. It's like, oh man, I gotta, they kind of roll their eyes. They're like, oh, this is going to be so hard or so miserable. And it's like, no, you got to get your mindset in a place where this is positive and fun and you're passionate about it. And, once that happens, it becomes contagious. And eventually, when you find that special program for you, whatever it might be, it becomes something that you can't live without. I mean, I can't go more than 2 days without working out because I miss it so much. I'm like a terrible person if I'm not working out because I love it so much. It's a part of my life. And so I think that's the biggest thing for people is getting to that positive place and finding a positive program for you.
And I think your number two, accountability, is going to tie into that because, like you said, you get your coaches, your trainers, right? You encourage them to make that experience amazing. So I'm just assuming, because that's where I come from, that I got a coach, I got a trainer, and that's how I got my habit to stick. When you say accountability, what does that mean for you?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, think about even the highest level athletes in the world, right? Olympic athletes, people that are the NBA, NFL, even those people who are extremely disciplined and they love doing what they do, they still hire trainers. They still have to have accountability. They still need motivation. And so, those are athletes making millions of dollars, right? And so think about how hard it is to just motivate yourself by yourself every day to go work out. No, you've got to find either a person or a community that's going to hold you somewhat accountable, right? Whether that be a trainer that you pay that's going to, text you and make sure that you're showing up for the workouts and create a program specifically for you, or maybe it's working out with a group of friends. Maybe even it's your spouse. I know that can get a little tricky because, it can be tough holding a spouse accountable, but at least somebody that can make sure you're showing up. With Camp Gladiator, our trainers, even though they're leading a group workout with sometimes, 40, 50, 60 people, they still text our campers if they miss camp, or they get them on Facebook and they're like, hey man, where have you been? And then the group holds each other accountable because, you meet new people out at camp, and if they notice that you've been missing, they kind of start to, maybe they'll call you out on Facebook or something like that, and it just helps. It helps you to show up. It lets you know that other people care.
Yeah, and it's not like, it's not like the bad kind of accountability. It's the kind of, we miss you. Like, I get to see some of this because a lot of my friends happen to be in your program, and that's where my wife and I got launched, right, with Dallas. She started working out with her friends. So I'll just reinforce what you said. Get a person or a community, and the person could be a trainer, like someone you're paying, or it could be a partner, because I think Wendy, my wife, was working out with one of her best friends, Jenny, and I think just having to count on each other, like, I'm counting on you to be there at 6 a.m., not wanting to let each other down was a form of accountability that got them going. And then they had a group of neighborhood moms that were coming together, and that formed its own. So, you don't have to always pay someone to do this. It can just be a partner, but get that accountability for someone. I just love that idea.
Yeah, and it could also be, like I know myself, a couple months ago, I kind of went through a rut and, lost even my own motivation for a little bit. And so what I would do is I would text the trainer and say, hey, I'm going to show up tomorrow. And then I knew I was holding myself accountable because I had told them that I was going to be there, and I wasn't going to let that trainer down. And so sometimes even if you tell somebody, hey, I will meet you there, or I am showing up tomorrow, well, you're not going to be a bad friend or, a liar and just sleep in and not be there. And so, I think it can go both ways of them holding you accountable, but at the same time, maybe you hold yourself accountable by telling someone you're going to be there, and then you're less likely to not show up because you told somebody you were going to be there. You don't want to break your word.
I love that. And you know what? I'll just add to this. If you can find your accountability partner, your friend, your trainer, and they can bring enjoyment to it as well, that's ultimately lining up your dominoes. Our trainer this morning, we were out there. We were on our CG mats at 5:30 a.m. and he had us doing mountain climbers, and I hate mountain climbers. And he had me giggling. He just kept saying, "This is your favorite exercise. You love this. You love this. You want to do it longer." And I mean, he was just being silly, and he had me giggling while I was doing literally my most hated activity on earth. I like burpees more than mountain climbers. I don't know if that makes me weird or not. But I know Wendy will go jogging with Jenny, and that's also her social hour. So that 1 and 2 can actually go together really, really well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, how about number 3, convenience? What do we mean when you say if you've got a third thing that you can add to this recipe, make convenience? Why is that important?
Okay, so it's really interesting because we send out surveys to our Camp Gladiator campers all the time. And even though they absolutely love the program, they love their trainers, they love the community, every single time we send out a survey, we ask them, what is the most important thing for you maintaining your Camp Gladiator membership? And it is always the convenience of locations.
Hmm.
And, what that tells us is that, people get busy. And if the workout is not convenient to you or your lifestyle, at some point you are going to fall off doing it, right? So at Camp Gladiator, we pride ourselves that we want to have hundreds and hundreds of locations across every city because we don't want anybody to ever have an excuse that, oh, it was not convenient enough for me to go. And so I think that you have to find something long term that fits your life, right? And whether that be a workout program or a boot camp like CG that meets very close to either where you live or you work, or it's on your route, to or from work, or even I know we all get busy at some points. Like if it's your backyard or your patio, if that's the thing that's most convenient for you, that's what you're going to do. So if you have to drive 30 minutes across town, sit in traffic, if you don't have that convenience, eventually you will fall off. So we tell our campers we want to be the most convenient thing for you. I think that's a big thing with fitness. That's the only thing that's going to keep people sticking to it long term.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that was the recipe for my wife and I, and I'll add a different element to convenience. I think it's two things. I think it's not just the place where you're going, and for us, it ended up being our driveway. Like we knew if the trainer showed up in our driveway and threatened to knock on our window, well, we're going to show up every day, right? Because we have no place to hide if he's literally on our front door. But the,
Right.
the other thing was time. I think that, when people are trying to form habits, what you want is control. Can you control the environment, like where you're going and when you're going to do it so that you can be really consistent? And that consistency is where that all comes together. So I guess a convenient place would be my advice. You're lining up, and then can you pick a time when you can go that actually works for your schedule overall? Because if it's always on the edge, there are going to be days that you're just going to miss. And I've kind of I haven't been on your website this week, but y'all offer camps at all times of day too, right?
Absolutely, all times throughout the day. But I will say this, if you have kids especially, man, the morning time is usually the only time that parents really have to themselves. And so, most of our most committed campers go in the morning. Now, I know that can be tough for some people, but what we tend to see that happens in the evening camps, and of course we love it when people show up in the evenings as well, but sometimes people will find an excuse like, oh, well, work ran late, or, there was a happy hour after work, whereas in the morning there tends to be less excuses that are happening at 5:30 a.m. But in the end, you still have to find something that works for your schedule, morning or evening. Bottom line is you just got to stick to it.
I love it. I love it. And again, you're just echoing all the research in our book, The Best Time to Form Habits in the Morning. Not only that's when you have willpower, we talk about in the one thing, so that you can just kind of make yourself do it when you don't want to do it. It's also when we tend to have the most control of our time. There's less distractions. Things haven't happened already during the day that you have to fix or attend to. Your kid, isn't being, you're not being called home because your kids are sick at school, because you're doing it before they even went to school. And that's kind of how we ended up playing it. We felt like we could be the most consistent if it was in the morning time. So love that wisdom. All right, what about number 4? You are a competitive athlete. I'm just going to say, hey, I'm not competitive. Why do I need to go, Allie?
Well, I don't think that your goal necessarily has to be super competitive, but I think some type of goal. Like, for instance, a great goal would be to start off the year like, I want to work out 3 times a week. Well, that's a fantastic goal, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be super competitive, but I know a lot of us, adults are very, very competitive, so I do think that we all have that in us. And so even if it's as simple of, maybe you're going to do a race and you want to have a certain time on the race, or maybe you jog around the block. I know that was me and my husband for a long time. That was kind of our goal. We'd write it down and we'd compete against each other, but we had our lap around the block and we would time it, and you just write it on the fridge, just to have it up there. And you had a goal of what you wanted it to be, after the 4 weeks of training. And so I think that it can be a lot of different things, but I think you have to have some type of goal, so that you have something to look forward to, like something to train for. An example might be a trip that's coming up. We love to climb mountains, so if you have a trip on the books, okay, 2 months from now, I'm going to go climb a mountain, and if I don't get in shape now, I'm going to be hurting on that mountain. So kind of that goal is maybe a little the sense of fear of avoiding pain later on, but at least it's something like I'm actually working towards something, whether that be signing up for a triathlon or, like I said, doing some type of race where you have a time. That always helps. Just know that your training is working towards something.
Well, okay, so I was fooling. I'm actually super competitive, and that's actually kind of like with you and Jeff. My wife and I work out together, and like she's always pointing out how much better at jump roping that she is than I am, right? All the bouncy exercises, she kicks my butt. So yeah, so having a goal, I love that because it gives you a point. You're trying to get from point A to point B, whatever that goal is, to a rewarding vacation. Like I want to be in shape to go climb a mountain or go scuba diving or whatever that is. It could even have a reward element, but it allows you to do number 5. Because in our research, that people have the most joy in this life, not even just in achieving the goal, but in making progress towards it. So every pound you lose, or every inch of muscle, or every second you take off of your time, those little moments of progress can really be a great tailwind for you. And it's hard to have those without a goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this is something we do at Camp Gladiator a lot. We'll do a fitness test at the beginning of camp and then 4 weeks later at the end of it. And
so
like you said, this kind of leads. Progress. Yeah, and it leads to the next point of when you get to track it, you get to hit milestones and you feel good about yourself. You're like, yes, I'm making progress. Now I have momentum. Now I want to keep doing this because I'm successful at it. And so, even if that progress is, man, I had a 6-minute fitness assessment test and I retested and it was 5:40 the next time. Okay, I improved by 20 seconds. That's a big deal. And sometimes with working out, you don't always personally feel your own progress, especially if you've been doing it for several weeks. So it's nice to have, something written down where you can track that and say, wow, I really have progressed a lot. Maybe I don't feel it every day, but I can see now how far I've come. That's a huge thing in fitness. It's just to feel that sense of confidence and pride that you are accomplishing things.
You felt so strongly about that. It sounds like that you've built that into your system. Whether your campers are doing it or not, your trainers, is that what you call them, trainers?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure you didn't have your own cultural language on that. Your trainers are going to track for them, right? So that you can demonstrate the progress, which is one, great marketing, but it's a great benefit for the people there. They're like, wow, now maybe you've given them a goal that they'll want to beat during the next camp that they attend.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's another great thing about being a part of a program where that there's that community element and where you're with a trainer, is they can help set that up for you. And that's the great thing also about working with a trainer is they've gone to school for this, they're certified, so they know what a good fitness assessment test for you would be so that you can track your progress.
Love it. All right, folks, we're kind of wrapping up this portion. I'm going to roll back through these 5 with Allie. I've got about 15 questions already up on the board. If you've got a fitness question, we've got an expert right here with us. Please type it into the questions toolbar. We'll try to get to it. We're probably going to flip to the questions here in about 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll have plenty of time to get through these. So let's just recap this. First priority is enjoyment, right? So what's the big idea there?
Big idea there is find something fun that you can go to and be excited about, and not something that you dread. Because if you dread it, you're gonna find an excuse not to go to. So find something that you love to do, and you will do it over and over again.
Great. That's a starting point for our roadmap, right? We're going to pick a plan that we enjoy. Accountability.
Somebody's got to know if you stop showing up, so they can hold you accountable and get you back out there.
Right.
We're going to all lose. we're going to all lose our motivation at some point, so to have others around you that positively encourage you is really, really important.
Yeah, when you don't want to let someone else down, you won't let yourself down. I love that. Convenience.
It has to work within your lifestyle. Think about where you live, where you work. It has to generally be between about 5 to 10 minutes away from one of those two things for you to stick with it long term.
Oh, wow. Okay, so y'all have seen from experience, you need to pick a spot that's 5 to 10 minutes away from your home or work. That's the sweet spot.
Or your route to or from work. That's the sweet spot, yes, that we found. I forgot to mention that earlier. About 5 to 10 minutes is generally the best convenience so that people stick with it.
Cool. So if it's taking you more than 10 minutes out of your way, that's probably a sign that it may not be convenient for you. I love that. That gives them something to measure it against. So a
hmm
goal and tracking, and I kind of blend those two in my mind. Let's sum that up for folks before we go to the Q&A.
Well, this can be anything. This is very personal to some people. I mean, for the new year, it might just be, hey, I want to work out twice a week. I want to work out 3 times a week. You got to start somewhere. And as you accomplish those goals, you're going to probably set higher and higher goals that are more specific with, I want to finish a certain race within a certain time, or, I want to lose this amount of weight, or whatever that goal might be. But I think it's really important to have something to strive for.
I love it. And so, in our book, we talked about people who were willing to write down their goals were about 36% more likely to actually achieve them. And people who brought even minimal accountability, just like sending literally an email every 2 weeks to a partner, were 76% more likely to achieve their goals. So your 2 and your 4 go hand in hand because they really work, having a goal. And I had this big aha when you said it doesn't have to be competitive. When I first, kind of role played with you, a lot of times people have that misconception that it's about competition, but sometimes the best results come from just challenging yourself. It's got nothing to do with anyone, just but your own personal goals, right? It's kind of competing with yourself.
Right? About staying consistent. I mean, that's what a lot of working out is. You will see results if you're consistent and if you show up and do it. So,
Why, great. All right, so any last thoughts? Because I'd love to get to some of these questions. We got about 15 minutes roughly before the end of the hour. Anything else we need to say before we roll to the Q&A?
well, just on that tracking, when you do hit certain milestones, maybe give yourself a reward. So, maybe if your goal was I want to work out 3 times a week over the next 4 weeks, if you hit that milestone, go buy yourself a new fitness outfit, or go, buy yourself some new tennis shoes or something nice to reward yourself on hitting that milestone.
Love it. Love it. Rewards. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to the questions and I'm going to say that at least the first name of the people who asked it. So Courtney was one of the first people to jump on the system. She asked, how can I stay consistent? I'll start good and then get bored. So the essence here is how do we keep this from getting boring?
Well, it just might not be the right program initially. At Camp Gladiator, one thing we tell our trainers, and we do this at every workout, is every single workout is different
Hmm.
because we know people get bored. So we never repeat a workout. So if you're one of those types of people that, yeah, you're going to get bored, we'll find a program where they're going to change the workout every day so that it's a surprise for you every day. If you're, maybe going to the gym and it's the exact same class with the exact same movements to the exact same soundtrack, you can expect to get very, very bored with that. So find something that's maybe more outside the box. And I think you said her name was Courtney. Maybe something that's outdoors, maybe something that's, you know, maybe a little out of your comfort zone that you haven't tried before. And I think that'll keep you a lot more engaged in the long term.
Cool. And this may go with that. David Hill asked, and I think this is the David Hill I know in Boston. Is your workout a CrossFit workout? And if not, what's the main difference? Because you already hinted that y'all have a regime that changes all the time. So tell us a little bit about your philosophy of the actual workouts.
Yeah, so it's very different than CrossFit. We are a full body functional workout, and we're an outdoor fitness boot camp. So we meet outdoors, and primarily the equipment that we have is every camper brings their own mat, their own dumbbells, and then sometimes the trainers will bring, medicine balls or sand bells, or additional equipment for that day. But primarily it's mainly body weight exercises, but we do a lot of team competitions. We do a lot of partner work. So, like I said, every day is completely completely different. And what's fun about that is, you don't know what you're going to get. So you might do a team competition one day, and man, I tell you what, there is nothing better than finding a program where you can kind of be on a team and do these team competitions, because we all love to compete, we all love to win, and you're going to push yourself so much harder than you would ever push yourself when you're alone by yourself. So that's mainly what we focus on. We also have different themes for each of our weeks of camp, and they build in levels of intensity. Like week 1 is endurance, week 2 functional training, week 3 interval training, week 4 metabolic conditioning. So kind of the theme of every week is changing, which keeps it fun and engaging as well.
Besides just the practical insight that change, mixing it up keeps people involved, are there actual physical benefits to mixing it up and kind of surprising your muscles every day?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, if you do the same thing, your muscles are just going to memorize what you're doing over and over again. You're not going to really see many results from that. But when you're changing it every day and it's a surprise to your body has to adapt to it. And it's actually the same thing with the weather. People always ask us, well, what's it like working out outside? Sometimes it's hot and cold. And man, your body has to adjust to that, right?
Right.
And so it's cool to see your body go through that, because when we're working out in the cold, for instance, you're burning like twice as many calories because you're trying to maintain your body's heat, right? And so you're having to work twice as hard, burn twice as many calories working out outside with us. And so that's why we're huge advocates for get outside. It's going to be more enjoyable. You're going to get to see the sun. You're going to get a little vitamin D in as you get in your workout, and your body's going to have to adapt to the different temperatures, which is a really good thing for our bodies. We're meant for that.
Cool. So we've answered David's question, and it actually wraps back to Courtney. Mixing it up might prevent the boredom, and it actually sounds like it's actually maybe the best way to go about it. Awesome.
Without a doubt. Yep.
Here's one from Jessica, and I love this one because I was here not that long ago. If you're out of shape and fitness exercising is new, where's a great place to start?
Yeah. So again, I think finding a good program, if you're maybe a little intimidated to jump straight into a program, start by doing some simple things, maybe walking at first. Maybe you say, okay, I'm going to walk for 2 weeks to just start building up my stamina. And then the next 2 weeks, go into a walk run. So maybe you walk for 2 minutes and you jog for 2 minutes. And then the next week you're able to jog for 3 minutes and walk for 2 minutes. And so very progressive steps, right? And then maybe the following 2 weeks after that, you start incorporating some weights to work on your strength. And then maybe you are like, yeah, you know what, I feel like I'm at a good place to join a program. Although we tell people, don't even, when you're thinking about joining Camp Gladiator, we will do all that with you. We will help modify exercises, if you're brand new to working out. And so we tell people just join the program and we'll help get you through that. But maybe if that's a little intimidation factor for you, start slow and then you can progress every week.
Cool. And this is kind of a parallel question, right? So someone new to working out, we've got someone here, initials RS. What would you say to someone who is very overweight? And they're kind of scared of the boot camp type environment. It sounds like, do you adapt it to people who are not only new to exercise or may, be a little overweight and have some extra challenges?
We absolutely do. Yep, at Camp Gladiator, it's all fitness levels and it's completely go at your own pace. So hopefully many of you listening are in one of our CG cities. We'd love to have you join us out at camp. But if you're not, maybe there's a program around you that has kind of a similar concept. And that is that you go at your own pace. So maybe we do push-ups for 30 seconds. Maybe you get in 5 push-ups in 30 seconds and the person next to you gets in 30 push-ups. Everyone's going at their own individual level and they're pushing themselves to their own body's limits. So I think that's the best way to work out. Because you get to determine, how many you want to do and how fast you want to go. So if you're overweight, that's important. Also, make sure you're with a great trainer that's positive and knows what they're talking about, because at Camp Gladiator, we have modifications that we offer to campers that can't do something, and we call those success options. So it's not that you're a failure because you can't do this. It's, hey, we're going to help set you up for success. Maybe let's take a couple steps backward. Let's tweak this exercise a little bit so that you can perform it properly with your form so that you don't get injured, and then in a couple weeks you can advance to the next level of the exercise. But by the time you're out at camp for 3 or 4 months, you're probably knocking out most of those exercises without a problem.
Cool. Well, I have kind of a high level question that you might just answer quickly. What group do you get your trainers certified through? And I mean, you talk about being able to adjust these exercises to all kinds of people. Is this your own certification, or is it one that other trainers could participate in?
So our trainers do have to have a nationally accredited certification. So for the most part, they'll have like a NASM certification, ACE, Cooper, one of the ones that's nationally recognized. So yes, they absolutely have to be certified, but then they also have to go through an extensive Camp Gladiator internship process. And that's about 3 months with us, where they go through our training. They have to attend an academy here in Austin, Texas with us, and then they'll get the opportunity, if we feel like it's a good fit, to open a location with us.
That's cool. I love that y'all really vet them tightly, because in my experience and kind of reading in this, the quality of the trainer is everything. They know what they're doing, people don't get hurt, and people have a good experience.
Absolutely. And that's a huge thing, you guys. As you go out there and you look for a program, again, if you're not in one of our CG cities, you got to find a program that's going to keep you safe. The main thing with Camp Gladiator is we're doing functional exercises, mainly body weight stuff, or we use dumbbells or incorporate some equipment, but we're not throwing giant weight over our head, first weekend, and we're not making them, we're not having a 50-year-old mom who hasn't worked out in 15 years do heavy lifts that are going to hurt her back or throw out her shoulders. So just be really careful with the program you choose. There's no need to be doing a lot of the heavy Olympic lifting stuff. We feel like you can get in everything you need to strength-wise, cardio-wise, with a great functional program.
If I'm new to fitness, like, what does it mean to do functional exercises? Just in case people, like, a functional exercise means it mimics movements you already do. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Movements that you do in your daily life and that help you to move better. And so, for instance, running, doing push-ups, doing squats. And as you advance, we'll get into some harder movements like a lunge power walk, maybe even a bear crawl, like some of our primal movements that we need to all become stronger in. And so that's a great place to not only start, but even for me, that's 100% of the type of workout that I do is all functional training.
Cool. Well, here's a question from Ed. He says, if you exercise in the morning, do you eat before or after the exercise?
Sure. Well, when it's really early in the morning, like 5:30 a.m. for our campers, what I generally tell them is you're going to have to find what works for you, but probably a little something. If you just rolled out of bed, grab something, maybe some oatmeal, maybe a piece of toast, maybe a banana. I wouldn't eat anything too heavy though if you're like headed straight to the workout. And then go to the workout, and then you got to eat something right afterwards, especially get some protein in right after the workout. But everybody's going to be a little bit different with that. Some people are going to need more calories, some people are going to need less. So you're going to have to play with kind of what works with your stomach, and also knowing the intensity of your workout is going to matter a lot. If, like I said, if you just woke up, rolled out of bed, and you're about to head to a super high intensity workout, you're going to want some calories, maybe about 200 calories, but keep it somewhat light so that you're not, throwing that up a little bit later on in the workout.
I remember, like,
but you'll need some energy.
my workouts with Dallas, I would have to have at least a couple of slices of apple. And that was what I found. Like, I could eat that, and that glucose went in my bloodstream, so I had a little energy to actually get through it, but I could not work out on a full meal. So it sounds like a little before, test, see what your body can handle. And why protein after? Why is that important?
Well, you want to help rebuild your muscles, and also protein is so great, especially for breakfast. Everybody's got to have protein in their breakfast. That's what's going to keep you full for a longer period of time, so you don't get that feeling of, oh man, I'm already hungry again, right? That's going to keep you satisfied for the longest period of time. And protein is so incredibly important in our diet. So we strongly recommend protein in the morning, regardless of if you did the workout or not. You've got to get that protein in the morning.
Okay, so I've got about 5 more questions flagged. We've got about 5 minutes to go, so we're going to try to get through these quick. Here's a good one, and give us your best motivation here. Charlene, is really discouraged. I have over 100 pounds to lose. How do I keep motivation through the pain?
Over 100 pounds and wants to keep motivated through the pain. That was the question.
Yep.
Well, I would say, man, she's got a great goal ahead of her. Her
Yeah.
motivation is 100 pounds is life changing. I'll tell you this, we've done research on if you're working out consistently, and that is that it will add like 7.2 years to your life.
Wow.
Okay, so if you are consistently working out, and if you are taking care of yourself, eating healthy, and that's what we say at Camp Gladiator, that's what fires us up every day is, why do you do what you do? Well, because we are literally adding years to people's lives. So that 100 pounds, that's a big deal, because if we can work that weight off, and if we can get in a consistent workout routine, you will live longer and you will live a much fuller life where you feel better about yourself. So I think that's your motivation there, is you have to think long term. You have to think bigger picture. I think along the way it's going to be very hard, but give yourself some grace. Know that you're not going to be perfect, right? And so maybe when you go through some of those challenges, maybe you don't eat well one day, or maybe you skip a couple days of working out. Okay, you know what? That happened. I'm going to forgive myself and I'm going to move on. But it's like when you fall in that hole of, oh, now I'm mad at myself and now I feel bad, and then you just sink deeper and deeper into that hole. That's what you want to try to avoid.
Well, and remember, I'll just add this, and I don't have your expertise, but I do know that hockey stick graph. It feels like nothing's happening until it happens so fast, you're going to be shocked. So stick with it, because anybody who gets that consistency, and we got all 5 elements up there that Ali shared with us, those results will show up. It may take some patience and determination, but when they do, it's a huge reward. And I've seen that again and again. Um, okay, we got time for a couple more here. Um, this is from Corey. What time of day is it when your body best responds to a workout?
Generally in the morning. So studies have kind of shown that if you work out in the morning, you're going to burn more calories throughout the day because you've got your metabolism rocking. So that, I think, is the most ideal time, maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there. But again, you got to find something that you're going to stick to.
Yeah, if you work the
And
night shift,
so
6 o'clock's not going to work for you, right?
Exactly. So I would say my preference is just get a workout in at some point. It doesn't even matter. Even if you have to do it at 11 p.m. after the kids go to sleep, you just got to get it in. You cannot, come up with excuses to miss it. And I promise you that it'll make you more productive no matter what. But if you can get it in the morning, that's the most ideal time, because you're going to get your metabolism going, and then you're going to eat that breakfast. You're going to burn those calories really quick, and then it's going to set you on a good path for the rest of the day, because you're going to make good, healthy eating options throughout the day as well. That's the other thing with working out. If you can get in a good workout routine, guess what? You're going to want to start to eat healthier, because you're not going to want to go eat a giant hamburger or pizza, before you work out, because you're like, oh no, I don't want to throw that up in a couple of hours. So you're going to be smarter with the decisions that you make with everything else, with sleep, with eating, with your stress levels. It's going to help with everything.
All right, well, cool. We're running out of time. I just want to say this. Charlene, wherever you are, a lot of people, thank you for the thank you. She said thank you to Ali. I don't think you can see that, but a couple of people came in and said, good for you, Charlene. Go for it. We believe in you. You got some people rooting for you right here on this webinar to dive in and keep at it, because what a great journey that's going to be, and you'll be able to change a lot of lives by telling people what you did. So I love all the people that are commenting on that. That is awesome. All right, last question. A lot of people, there's been a lot of questions. What do you think about a vegan diet, nutrition? Can you just give us one last question? What's your philosophy on nutrition in this whole thing? Besides, when to eat, where do you sit? Is it paleo? Is it low carb? What's your big philosophy on nutrition for fitness?
So my philosophy is, again, it has to be something that works within your lifestyle. If it doesn't work within your lifestyle, you will not stick to it, right? So if it's too extreme, okay, maybe you do that for a couple weeks, but that you're not going to be able to fulfill that long term. So I think making good, choices long term, and sometimes those are little choices throughout the day. I'm just a proponent of eating, healthy foods throughout the day, natural foods, where you're eating lean proteins, you're getting in vegetables throughout the day. That's my biggest thing, and I think that people sometimes they overcomplicate it when the truth of the matter is if you are working out again, you are going to want to eat healthier. You're going to want to make healthier decisions. And so, protein for sure in the morning, lean proteins throughout the day with vegetables to complement that. That's the main thing right there.
I love it.
And you can still have a fun night out on Friday, Saturday. Hey, go eat a pizza, go eat your chips and queso once a week, but limit that, right? You've got to know. And my husband, he's a bad temptation on me sometimes. Sometimes people are like, hey, let's go out on a Monday night, let's go grab pizza. I'm like, no. Monday through Friday, I'm all business. I'm going to be, somewhat serious about my diet. I'm going to make healthy decisions, and on the weekend, I'm going to enjoy myself.
All right,
So
because
I think those are simple things.
you have hundreds of people in a health webinar. It's a Friday, and you just said it's a Friday. Go eat pizza. That's all I heard. I'm just going to put that on the record. Okay.
Well, wait, but that means on Monday through Friday next week they got to be really, really good.
I hear you. No, with joking aside, for fitness and diet, the best plan is the one that you'll stick to. I love that. That's wisdom. Let's be practical. Let's get some results, and those results reinforce the future actions. Well, we're out of time, Allie. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Hey, everybody else, say thank you on the questions if you're still here. I see lots of thank yous coming in. I think hopefully we've helped people launch their 2016 with some wisdom and some guidance so that they can really get some impact. On the screen there, you'll see we did a study on how to get a lot of people healthy at one time. If you're a trainer, if you're wanting to look into tracking, this is a great little white paper. It's theonething.com Wellness Challenge. We had a lot of fun with this, and more than half of our employees participated in it. It's pretty cool and pretty eye-opening. Lastly, thank you so much. You're going to be asked to take a survey on the way out. Please take 5 minutes and tell us why you joined us, what you got from it, and how we can do better. We really need that so that we can make these better and better and have the best possible guests, just like Allie. I mean, you delivered, Allie. I love that. And then mark your calendars. Thursday, January 28th, hopefully a month into your new fitness program, we're going to have Jess Lively on there. She's one of my favorite people out there. She has a really amazing podcast called The Lively Show, and she's really helping people get in touch with their purpose and why they do what they do. So thank you so much for joining us for this month's, the last webinar of the year. We've had more than 15,000 people join us. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Hopefully you got great value for it. And Allie, thank you again for joining us today.
Jay, thank you so much, and thank you guys for listening in. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, everybody have a happy holidays.